Now at 5 and streaming on CrossroadsToday.com, the future of the old jailhouse in downtown Victoria is still in limbo. We speak with a local attorney about the jail's fate. And the investigation is underway in Houston after a child drowned in a hotel pool. What we know so far, next. Plus, protesters took to the streets of downtown Dallas over the weekend to protest against Senate Bill 4.
We had a few sprinkles around the area this morning, but then the cool front came through. All right, it's 79 degrees, but it will be cooler for the next couple of days. This week is very quiet in terms of weather, so we'll have all of that coming up in just a few minutes.
The legal battle over access to an abortion pill continues amid a post-Roe landscape. You're watching 25 News now at 5. Good afternoon and thanks for being with us. I'm Karina Garcia. Should it stay or should it go? That is the main question concerning the Old County Jail in downtown Victoria. 25 News Now anchor Don Brubaker is live with attorney John Griffin, who can share more details about the fate of this jailhouse.
Thank you, Karina, and welcome back, sir.
Thank you, Don. Glad to be here.
As you're going through the tour of the old Victoria County Jailhouse, your first impressions?
Well, my first impressions remind me what it was like to be a young lawyer and having to go visit prisoners over there and meet with the attorney downstairs, because that old building's been the home to the sheriff's office, the jail, the district attorneys, and now it's housing some of the sheriff's folks downstairs. So I think it's a part of Texas history. It's a real depiction of what it was like for women in solitary confinement in all of those jail cells. It is quite a building.
And you told me it's 84 years old.
That's right. It was built in 1939 and 1940. It is quite a structurally sound building, and was built to last, and it has.
When you came out of the old Victoria County Jail building after that tour, if someone had asked you, okay, are you going to demolish it or refurbish it, what would have been your first instinct to say?
I'd say this building's in structurally good shape. It should be repurposed. This building has a great future. It may be as a museum, it may be as office space, it may be a special event space, but the building is quite strong and structurally very sound. Mm-hmm. There's no good reason to tear that building down. It's going to be a Herculean effort to destroy it, because it's not meant to be easily demolished, because it's a fortress. It's an old jail and sheriff's office, and it also has value because entrepreneurs would love to have that building to repurpose it on the downtown square of the courthouse. And so I think the public would like to see that treasure preserved and made into something that's special, and would prevent demolition of something that's so special to us, and not mar the beautiful courthouse square that used to be on postcards. When people would visit Victoria, they would send pictures of the old jail and the courthouse to their friends and relatives. So it's quite a building, and we're confident it has a great future.
Mm-hmm. What do you know about estimated costs of either the demolition of the building or the refurbishing of the building, if you want to compare?
Well, the county says that they don't have a good firm number for demolition, but they reckon it would be around $400,000 plus or minus. They don't have an estimate for rehabbing it, but they say to completely turn it into a brand new building and remove the jail cells could be at upwards of $4 million. They haven't done any work to see, for example, whether the bottom two floors could be used for office space, which would be a price tag far less than that, and be a good use of that, because to build a building like that today of 19,000 square foot would cost $10 to $12 million. And that jail is really how should I put this, an architecturally significant building, the only Art Deco masterpiece in the Crossroads area.
And just a final thought, if you were the architect and you were going to redo it, what would you do?
I would ask the architect, how do you see this building being successful? Office space, boutique space, special event space, or a jail museum for kids to come in and have downstairs as offices and the upstairs as a jail. I would ask the architect, what is the highest and best use of this building, and what's it worth?
All right. Mr. Griffin, thanks for coming in. We always appreciate it.
Don, nice to be with you.
All right. And Karina, back to you.
Don, thank you. Victoria County Commissioners appointed a new public defender. Brian Watson was named Chief Public Defender for Victoria County. He will also serve Lavaca, Jackson, and Refugio counties. The role of the public defender is to provide legal counsel for defendants who cannot afford legal representation. He says the role of a public defender is also to continue serving clients after the trial is over.
We have a holistic model. A holistic model means that we treat the root causes of crimes, not just the aftermath. So we connect our clients with economic opportunities like jobs, educational services, mental health providers and services, and substance abuse treatment.
Watson's first day on the job is April 22nd. U.S. Representative District 27 Michael Cloud put out a statement on why he voted against the Mini Bus Act. He said, quote, "If the vast majority of taxpayers were truly given time to learn what is in this bill, they would be rightfully furious. At some point, those who call themselves conservatives are going to have to stand up. I fear we are running out of time," unquote. And now let's pause on the news and take a look at your forecast with Chief Meteorologist Mac Perez.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. We are looking at fairly nice weather for the next couple of days. Now, over the weekend, we had a lot of cloud cover. This morning, a little bit of light rain around the region. Everything basically less than 1/4 of an inch, but that's all gone. Now we're picking up northerly winds, and that's going to make it very comfortable in the 70s for the next few days. We'll have more details on your weather coming up in just a moment.
Mac, thank you. Tragedy in Houston after a child drowned in a hotel pool. Saturday, an 8-year-old girl drowned after getting sucked into a pipe while swimming in a hotel pool. Authorities initially reported her as missing, but after a search crew reviewed security footage, they found she went underwater and never resurfaced. That's when they drained the pool and sent a camera almost 20 feet into one of the pool's pipes.
Appears right now as a pump was put in there and it's probably malfunctioning because the open pipe that she ended up in was supposed to be pushing water out, and right beside that pipe there was another pipe that actually had a big plastic filter like screen on the front that's supposed to be sucking water in. So I know there was one speculation last night from somebody that knows quite a bit and everything that the pump was wired wrong, so it was sucking instead of pushing.
It took nearly 13 hours to recover the girl's body. An investigation is now underway. Hundreds of people marched in downtown Dallas against the immigration law Senate Bill 4, which would allow local police to arrest people suspected of crossing into the U.S. illegally. Sunday's march lasted for more than an hour. An appeals court will decide whether Senate Bill 4 can go into effect. The court has another upcoming hearing, but it's unclear when there will be a decision. Now, rights to abortion access is heading back to the Supreme Court this week. Tomorrow, anti-abortion advocates will argue the FDA unlawfully relaxed restrictions on access to the abortion pill, mifepristone.
As the nation adjusts to a post-Roe world, another case before the Supreme Court could change abortion access in the states that still allow it. On Tuesday, the Supreme Court is scheduled to hear arguments related to mifepristone, a pill that helps end an early pregnancy. Plaintiffs claim the FDA made the drug easier to access without due diligence.
Women come into these emergency rooms suffering from abortion drug complications, and our doctors have a sincere conscious objection to facilitating abortion, to potentially ending an unborn life, and those sorts of things.
Mifepristone was initially approved in 2000. The FDA eased mifepristone restrictions twice in 2016 and 2021, expanding the window someone has to use the drug, changing who's allowed to prescribe it, and most recently eliminating an in-person dispensing requirement. The FDA argues each of those changes were done properly.
If you can challenge drug approvals years or even decades after the fact by asking judges to sort of second guess the evidence that regulators have meticulously reviewed, that sets a pretty important precedent.
Since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, 21 states have banned or restricted abortion access. Medication abortions now account for more than half of all abortions in the U.S. Walgreens and CVS started dispensing mifepristone in select locations this month, expanding access. Abortion rights advocates want to keep it that way.
It's just quite, I guess, hilarious to see politicians who have no medical background trying to make laws regarding women's bodies.
We expect to see an opinion on this case at the end of June. Cristiane Cordero, ABC News, Washington.
While cities across the U.S. are abandoning bus stations, one city in East Texas is investing in the mass transit option. You can read more about this Texas Tribune article on our website, crossroadstoday.com. And remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today. Hit the like button and click that notification bell. Stay with us. Israeli leaders canceled their trip to Washington today. Straight ahead on 25 News Now at 5, the reasons behind the cancellation. Also ahead, new video shows how a man managed to slip past security at an airport in Utah and boarded a flight with the wrong ticket. Today, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu canceled a planned diplomatic delegation trip to Washington. Two of his top advisors were expected in Washington tonight, but Netanyahu canceled the trip after the U.S. did not veto a resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire and the unconditional release of all hostages from Gaza. This comes after President Biden last week voiced great concerns with Netanyahu over Israel's plans for a ground offensive in Rafah and asked for Israeli leaders to come to Washington to discuss alternatives. There's new security video showing a man at the Salt Lake City International Airport taking pictures of multiple unsuspecting passengers boarding passes before using a picture of a ticket to board a Delta flight. Court documents say the 26-year-old had a standby ticket for a Southwest Airlines flight, but was rescheduled on a later flight. He then decided to get on a Delta flight and hid inside the bathroom before flight attendants realized he didn't even have a ticket. The plane returned to the gate where law enforcement took him into custody. He faces a count of stowing away on a vessel or aircraft. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed a bill into law banning social media accounts for children under the age of 14. Under the law, 15 and 16-year-olds in Florida can get social media accounts with parental consent. He says the bill gives parents greater ability to protect their children. The bill, set to go into effect on January 1st, is expected to face massive legal challenges from the tech industry. So here's your viewer poll. You can scan that QR code right there on your screen to vote. The question is, do you believe that banning social media for children under 14 will protect them? Yes or no? We want to hear your opinion on this. Come to crossroadstoday.com/vote to take part. And we're going to have an update on 25 News Now at 6. The American Cancer Society reports more than 2 million new cancer cases will be diagnosed in the U.S. this year alone.
After revealing her cancer diagnosis, Catherine, Princess of Wales, said one of her biggest priorities was finding the right way to tell her young children.
There was a time when, the information was hidden.
The American Cancer Society says children seem to sense when something is wrong, so keeping a cancer diagnosis from them may result in confusion and fear.
When you're talking to children, they probably understand, more than you think they will.
To start the conversation, the organization says to be open and honest, speak in a way they'll understand. They need to know what to expect and how the diagnosis will affect them. Younger children may need fewer details than those who are older. Most kids should know the basics, the type of cancer, where the cancer was detected in the body, what will happen during treatment, and how that treatment may change the person's life, their appearance, and how they feel.
A lot of times kids actually wind up blaming themselves. And so you need to reassure them, be honest with them, let them know it's a serious diagnosis, but there's a plan going forward.
Finally, the American Cancer Society says to allow children to ask questions and talk about how they're feeling. Find a good time when you won't be disturbed and when you're feeling calm enough to talk about the diagnosis. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
The Biden administration is spending $6 billion to cut planet-warming pollution from heavy industries, including cement, steel, and aluminum. The funding will go to more than 30 factories around the country who are taking the steps to cut about 14 million metric tons of carbon dioxide yearly. That equates to taking 3.3 million cars off the road in a year. The funding comes from a combination of the Inflation Reduction Act and the bipartisan infrastructure law.
And good afternoon, everyone. We had a little line of showers that came through the area early this morning. You'll see it right about there. It was very thin. We got 0.02 of an inch of rain. Out here in the red, that is actually a high fire danger because behind that rain comes in some cool, dry wind that we'll be talking what that's going to mean for our work week. All that coming up in just a moment. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Good afternoon, everyone. Don't adjust your sets. I'm over here at the weather wall doing the clicker thing. Anyway, it's 79 degrees. Once the sun cleared out, it got a little warm. That's also our high temperature for the day, and all of a sudden we're right at seasonal temperatures because it's springtime. You know, we start warming up this time of year, but we had the clouds this morning and actually got 0.02 of an inch of rain out at the airport. That brings our month of March up to 1.93. Just slightly below, half inch below our normal average for the month. And the year is now, since January 1, we've had 12.76. So let's take a look at the storm system. There you see the line that rolled right through our area. It is now way out there in Louisiana, causing all kinds of problems from Louisiana through Arkansas and on up into the Midwest. Behind it, you see some cooler air. You can always tell the cooler air when it looks kind of like cotton candy. You see what's out over Midland and El Paso? Yeah, that's cool, unstable air, and it is going to be drifting into our area, giving us a couple of very nice days. Meanwhile, we've got problems in the Midwest as this time of year means storm seasons. There's our little bitty line going right through Victoria, right there, about 11:30. And dropped only that very little light chance of rain. The red areas are for red flag warnings for fire danger because now the humidities are going to be dropping, that our winds have shifted around. But tonight, as I mentioned, things are a little busy up in the mid-Mississippi Valley. Big thunderstorms rolling from Louisiana all the way up to Arkansas and moving up into Greenville. You are looking at the heavy activity that's rolling through that area right now. Now here's the rainfall total in the last 24 hours. You can see it was barely a trace to a sprinkle here and there. But, you know, we got some great rain last weekend and we've stayed on the damp side. Haven't had a lot of hot, drying weather. So, you know, we're in pretty good shape. In fact, if you are driving around, you can see all the corn plants. They're smiling. Yeah, the corn plants are smiling because they're having such a great time right about now with a very conducive weather. So here's our storm and our little front that continues rolling up into the Midwest. They get all the bad weather. We're going to be shifting from an unstable air mass, and by the time we get to Wednesday, we're going to start the warming trend. Yes, it's going to start warming up, and so instead of staying in the comfortable 70s, by the time we get to the weekend, we're going to start seeing mid-80s, if you can believe it or not. Tomorrow, about 75 for us, 81 down in Corpus Christi, 73 in Houston. We're taking a look at your day planner for those of you in, let's first say severe weather outlook for tonight, but that's over there through Jackson, Mississippi, pretty much escaping most of Texas. Here's your Port Lavaca day planner, partly cloudy and then sunny all day long, getting up to about 75. In Cuervo, lots of sunshine all day long, getting up to about 72. Those are very comfortable temperatures. So a good looking couple of days. Scattered clouds on Wednesday, Thursday, but then Friday, yep, the old south wind kicks in and we're going to be rather breezy, getting warm, getting humid, and getting back up to the mid-80s by the time we get to the weekend. That is your 7-day forecast. Reminding everybody we do have a QR code. Love for you to scan that. Put Crossroads Today on your phone. Here's Karina.
Thank you, Mac. Coming up next on 25 News Now at 5, we're going to take a look at your stocks. Plus, new changes are coming to Boeing amid issues within the company. Taking a look at your stocks, the Dow down 162 points, the S&P 500 down 16 points, and the Nasdaq down 44 points. Oil up $1.32, closing at $81.95 a barrel. Boeing CEO announced he is stepping down from the company by the end of the year. The company's chairman and the head of the commercial airplane unit is also stepping down. For the last 5 years, Boeing has been hit with several problems from their airplanes, including 2 fatal crashes of the 737 MAX in 2018 and in 2019 that killed hundreds of people. And most recently, the door plug blowout on the side of an Alaska Airlines 737 MAX in January. The problems have led to multiple groundings for safety issues and more than $31 billion in losses. Chick-fil-A is doing away with its no antibiotics ever promise. They will now adopt a looser industry standard, the no antibiotics important to human medicine standard. Chick-fil-A first pledged never to serve chicken fed antibiotics in 2014. But now diminishing chicken supplies is the reason they are abandoning this policy. Antibiotic use in food production has come under intense scrutiny in recent years. Certain bacterial infections in humans have become increasingly treatment resistant because of more frequent exposure to the drugs. And stay with us. We're going to take one last look at your forecast with Mac. Plus, if you thought the moon looked a little darker last night, well, we explain that phenomenon and the reason why. Plus, here's a look at world news tonight, right after 25 News Now at 5.
Coming up tonight, the breaking news, the images coming in, the extraordinary scene unfolding, federal raids at the homes in Los Angeles and Miami belonging to music mogul Sean Combs. You'll see it. The tornado threat right now across multiple states, this major storm moving across the country, and we'll track it next.
Last night's moon might have looked a little darker than usual. That's because of a phenomenon called warm moon. It's named after the time of year when Native American tribes saw beetle larvae and other creatures emerging for spring. What made this morning's interesting is because it was almost perfectly aligned with Earth. Also, do not forget on April 8th that total solar eclipse will cross Mexico, the U.S., and Canada, and Mac is going to have us prepared for that one.
Oh, you bet. We'll be talking more about it as we get closer. It really is going to be from like Laredo through the hill country and then on up toward Dallas. So we here in Victoria are not really invited, but you'd have to go somewhere like San Antonio, Austin, definitely. The hill country is going to be a madhouse.
Yeah.
A lot of people are going to be up there just for those 5 minutes to get under the totality. But it's exciting. Anyway, folks, we've got some really nice weather. All of a sudden, we're out of the kind of the weather business. We're looking at a cool north wind for today, tomorrow, and Thursday. By the time we get to Friday, however, the old south wind kicks back in. We're going to have March winds. That's a strong sea breeze blowing, and that's going to give us the morning clouds and afternoon sun and get us back up to about the mid 80s in temperatures. But all things considered, we're turning the corner here. It's feeling a lot more like springtime. And of course, the wildflowers are going crazy all over the place.
Everywhere.
I drive 183 and man, it's almost wall to wall.
And so we're basically officially in spring. Forget about the cold.
Yes, my fear is that we'll get fewer and fewer cold fronts. So more and more southerly humidity and start feeling like the 80s, or temperature-wise.
That's right. Well, thank you, Mac, and thank you for being with us. We hope to see you back here tonight for 25 News Now at 6.